Hey folks, Siam here. So about 4 or 5 years ago, Jacob Konst, the founder of Bittensor, was looking at Bitcoin and thinking, holy shit, all of this amount of energy that's being used to secure the Bitcoin network is, I guess, wasteful energy. You know, we've all seen different announcements of, Bitcoin uses more energy than Norway every year. And the size of the country is going to keep on increasing because Bitcoin is getting more secure. But one concept that passes his mind is, well, what if we use that sheer amount of compute and directed it into something a little bit more useful than some hashes, and therefore proof of useful work instead of just proof of work. And then this is where Bittensor came along. So instead of using computers just to do these mathematical puzzles, Bittensor uses huge amounts of compute and resources to solve for intelligence. Now, I just made a little list here. It took me about 5 minutes. And off the top of my head, I can name 1, 2, 3, 4, over a dozen subnets, so mini independent AI startups within Bittensor, that are the world's best, cheapest, fastest at their particular niche. And the thing is, most crypto, they have 1, maybe 2 use cases. Well, Bittensor, is still a baby. It's still growing, still has teething problems, but already has well more than a dozen companies that are literally leading their field. So I just wanted to talk about how how this happens. So first of all, you've probably seen the Bitcoin emissions curve, and it looks a bit like this. We're up here right now with about 20 odd million circulating supply. The 21st millionth coin will be mined in the year 2140. The very last Bitcoin will be mined in the year 2105. So it's going to take 35 years to get that very last Bitcoin out. But in the early days, so if you're in Bitcoin at the beginning, all the way up until really say 2015, you would have heard all sorts of stories of Bitcoin miners making hundreds or thousands of Bitcoin a day or whatnot. And that's because Satoshi Nakamoto, whoever he, she, they were, they designed it so that it would be a massive fire hydrant of emissions, as in the amount of Bitcoin getting out of the network quickly on, good English, early on. And yeah, so it's 21 million max cap. And that's the thing, or one of the things, is that 100% of the emissions just went to the miners. So there's one incentive mechanism. Remember, incentive mechanisms make the world go round. If you own a company, you incentivize people to work for you for money. That is an incentive mechanism. I pay you 50 grand a year to do blah, and then you do blah. And so that is basically what an incentive mechanism is. So the singular incentive mechanism for Bitcoin was you provide compute power and hash rate to secure the network, and then we give you Bitcoin. That is the reward function of the Bitcoin protocol. And 100% of all emissions went to the miners. So how does it work with Bittensor? Well, it's very similar, and it looks exactly the same because there's only ever going to be 21 million tau. So tau is the ticker, is the token of Bittensor, and we are pretty much where Bitcoin was in 2012. So we're about here. We're about to have our first halving. We're about to hit 10.5 million circulating supply of tau. And yeah, there's relatively high emissions at the moment because we're on the up. But instead of 100% of the emissions going to miners, they split it up. So the emissions go to 3 participants. So you have miners, validators, and then let's just call them participants, actually. So 41% goes to the miners, 41% goes to the validators, and 18% goes to shareholders. But if you own Tau, stake it, let's call you're a participant. I don't really like the word delegate. It's confusing. You're a holder, so you get 18% of the emissions. And it really goes down a big old rabbit hole there, but let's keep it like that for the moment. Now, let's look at the process in which, in how stuff works. So I'm going to keep it really, really simple. Let's just use a picture algorithm of some sort. So what happens is the user, and the user could just be you, and you go, hey, I'd like a picture of a pink fluffy T-Rex. So that request goes to the validators within whatever subnet this may be, and they go, oh, okay, hey folks, someone's asked for a pink fluffy T-Rex, and that request goes from the validators to the miners, and in each subnet there's roughly 256 miners. Again, that's another rabbit hole, but so the miners go, oh, okay, we need to create an image. And so remember, this is one subnet, so it will be, let's say, a picture subnet. I'm really keeping things basic here. And then the miners go, cool, and then boom. So what happens is 256 pictures of pink fluffy T-Rexes make its way to the validator. And the validator is like the examiner. They go, oh, okay, who's created the best picture? And they may pick the top two. So then the top two pictures, let's say pics, goes back to the user. The user's now really happy, and then whoever made those top two pictures then gets extra rewards. So the miners, they make money by delivering really good results. And a miner could be something completely different on a different subnet. So for example, if we take the weather ones, they're doing forecasts of weather. So a miner in this subnet will be someone producing weather forecasts for a certain area for over a certain time frame, and there is a basic truth or ground source truth there, because let's say it either rained or it didn't rain, and if there is a miner that is consistently accurate in, hey, it's going to rain or it's not going to rain or blah, then that miner will be rewarded better, and it's down to the miner to improve the algorithm, etc., etc. Or it could be, you could have a compute subnet, and we have many compute subnets within Bittensor. So to be a miner there, yeah, you need compute power. Or if you take Hippias here, this is the world's cheapest cloud storage. This is 10x cheaper than Azure, AWS, or anything Google has. So if you wanted to be a miner within Hippias, you just need to provide storage. A bit like Filecoin, but better. Or BitTorrent, but better. Or video. This is the world's cheapest video compression. If you're a miner within video, you are someone that has a video compression algorithm. And if you can compress videos better, without quality loss, better than other people, then you're going to be rewarded extra Tau or extra subnet token, because every subnet has its own token. So that, in essence, is how Bittensor works, and that's why people call it proof of useful work, because in every subnet there are resources going to try and fix whatever they're trying to do, and there's 128 subnets, and so yeah, if you were ever curious, if I try and find subnetalpha.ai here we go. If you go to subnetalpha.ai, you can see what exactly all these subnets do, and I use this for myself. This is my own website. I've got someone in the office full-time just trying to maintain this. So if you wanted to see what subnet 1 is doing, what exactly does it do? It goes through it all. We try and create as many infographics as possible, and then you can really get under the bonnet and see, who's really, even the teams, and click on them, see what they are, who they are on LinkedIn, all sorts. So yeah, subnet.alpha is pretty handy, and if there's lots of videos on what Bittensor is. So this is a cool infographic here of all the different subnets. So yeah, check it out, and then some keep scrolling, there are more videos. So that's that. Now, the thing is, there's a term called fuzzy logic. So for example, with Bitcoin, because each miner is doing a set task, it's a mathematical puzzle, there is one clear answer. Okay, you either get the answer to this mathematical puzzle or not. Okay, so it's very binary. You either get it or you don't. But when you're building and solving for intelligence, because that's effectively what we're trying to do, each one of these subnets is trying to do something that around intelligence. And intelligence, you need lots of different things. So with Bittensor, there is no, it's very subjective, isn't it? If going back to the pink fluffy T-Rexes, how do you know it's the best picture? It's down to the user ultimately. Now, there are some subnets that have a very, clear cut. This is better. This is correct, or this is not. But a lot of them are quite subjective. So let's call it fuzzy logic. And so this is where the interaction between the validators and the miners is very important within Bittensor, because it's down to the validators having a good validation mechanism to choose which is the best answer. And it's down to the subnet owner to really lay down the guidelines of, okay, what is a good answer? And so the thing that the beating heart behind Bittensor is this thing called the Yuma consensus. What is the Yuma consensus? Basically, consensus is simply how a network agrees on truth. So think of it like a massive talent show for AI. Validators are the judges, miners are the performers, and the audience is the entire market. Every performance or model output gets evaluated, ranked, and rewarded in real time. And this is done to ensure fairness and decentralization. In the old world, it was a bit like a few validators had all of the judging power. This was like having 5 people decide who wins the entire competition. Easy to bribe, easy to bias, easy, and also very hard to scale. So what Yuma did was changed everything. Now, a validator's influence is balanced by real-world market dynamics through a thing called dynamic tau. So instead of votes, subnets compete in open markets using their subnet tokens. So remember, I said that every subnet had its own token, and each subnet has its own liquidity pool. So you can only buy a subnet token with tau. So you have to buy tau, then swap your tau for the subnet token. Now, if a lot of people are swapping their tau for subnet tokens, it's going to go up on the leaderboard. So you can go to, say, taustats.io, like this. Just click all, and you can see who are the profitable ones, or not profitable, who are the, let's call it the popular ones. So, Shoots are fine, and Ridges is way up there, and the list goes down. So, and another site that I also use is tau.app, and I use it for the metrics. It's got a really good metrics tab. But look, already, most of these subnets are like 8 to 9 months old, and cumulatively, all the subnets are $1 billion in market cap, and it's growing fast. So let's go back to where we were. So it's like people are voting with their money, so to speak. So security in Yuma consensus doesn't come from brute force. It comes from an economic balance and incentive design. And more importantly, it's fair. It is the only way that decentralized AI can work. Because if you take centralized AI, like OpenAI, Anthropic, etc., it's ruled by boardrooms and shareholders and chairmans and whatnot. And their models are closed, their data is private, and their rewards flow upward. But Yuma flips that pyramid upside down. It lets anyone contribute intelligence, anyone can validate it, and everyone shares in the rewards transparently. Everything is on chain. It's the proof of intelligence that levels the AI playing field. And that's why a lot of these subnets are growing a lot faster than any centralized AI. Because let's say, and this is where Reed's law comes into effect, because a lot of the subnets, if you've got the world's best or cheapest or fastest of everything, they can use each other's services to be faster, cheaper, and better. So, if we take Metanova that does the best novel drug discovery, and what they're doing is they're finding all sorts of stable protein folds and compounds that needs a bit of horsepower under the bonnet. Or where are they getting it from? They're not going to core weave. What they're doing is they're getting their inference and horsepower from the compute subnets. Or if you want really good data, clean labeled data, there's I haven't even included it here, Subnet 33, which is it cleans and labels data. In fact, I forgot Bitmind here. Subnet 34 is the world's best deepfake detection. Apologies, Ken. Oh yeah, so 33 I have it here for the data clean, but I forgot 34 for Bitmind. Apologies. But yeah, there's so many. So in a nutshell, that's Yuma consensus, how it stays fair, decentralized, and secure. And this is the only way that proof of intelligence can work. Hopefully that makes sense. Sorry for the waffling, and I'll see you soon.